Hey, what's happening, y'all? What's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another live stream vid. This is going to be relatively a short live stream because there's a couple things I want to address here. Before I address the main topic of this live stream, just wanted to wish everyone a happy Saturday and hope everyone has a great and safe weekend. So, yeah, let's get to it. First things first, let me just start off with the minor news and updates. Chris Eubank Jr.'s bout has been pulled. That was actually the main event to Sky Sports' boxer promotion debut that's scheduled for today. So according to the reason why the fight's been pulled, it was due to undisclosed medical concerns. Not sure what those concerns are. Could be that one of the fighters, either Chris Eubank's opponent or himself, could have tested positive for COVID going into the event, or someone got caught on, with an illegal PED. I mean, I don't know what the PED, I should say. I don't know for sure, but all I do know is the fight is pulled off. It's been pulled, I should say, and be interesting to see what boxers can do in this situation. What kind of contingency they have. So we'll see how this plays out later today. In other news, Manny Pacquiao has officially announced that he will be retiring from the sport of boxing, which is not too expected. Um, he's had a great career. He has nothing left to prove. The only thing left that he has to do now is focus more on his political career. He's a relatively young politician in today's standards. He's 42 years old, and he's running for president of the Philippines. So he's going up against Duarte, which everybody loves to hate so much. So Pacquiao definitely has a great chance of winning because he's an icon, a legend in his own country. So I expect him to win that election by a landslide, but never say never. Some people can rig elections in their favor. So I'm not sure how the Philippine election, the election or the political spectrum works over there, but we'll see how that develops. Great career, Pac-Man. Love him or hate him, he definitely had a great career. Is he the greatest of all time? I wouldn't go that far. He's definitely one of the all-time greats, no question about it. Is he top 10? Maybe I can see an argument there, but as far as greatest of all time, I'm not too sure because that's always left for interpretation of opinion. Um, but salute to Pac-Man Pacquiao. Wish him the very best in his political endeavors. So we'll see how that plays out. Um, Anyhow, let's get to what's up, Amir. Amir is in the chat. Long time no hear, man. So let's talk about the meat of the argument here, or the meat of the topic of this live stream. Anthony Joshua, was he compromised against Oleksandr Usyk? What I mean by compromise, I'm been listening to a lot of uploaders, primarily all the AJ fans. They're saying, and they're upset, which rightfully so, because they felt Joshua should have won that fight. He should have opposed his will, yada, yada, yada. I get all that, but I can't sugarcoat this because they're using this as a primary reason why he lost a fight to Oleksandr Usyk, which is obviously it's an excuse that he was weight drained against Oleksandr Usyk, which was the primary reason why he lost the fight against Usyk. I really don't understand that argument because Joshua had at least a 20-pound or 19 to 20-pound weight advantage over Usyk going into the fight. That's number one. Number two, he's weighed in at 240, 238, 240 in his last three fights. The Ruiz rematch and the Kubrat Pulev, which he won very easily. So I didn't see the complaint or the concern about him being wagering in those two fights. While all of a sudden, when he came in the same weight against a very elite fighter who's superior than both of the fighters that Joshua faced previously, all of a sudden weight is an issue. That's the reason why he lost the weight. He lost the fight. He was spent. No, Joshua was not spent. He had no weight draining issues at all. Okay, the man came in fantastic shape as always. Well, from a physique standpoint, and his whole idea was to try to go 12 rounds against a guy who has a great work rate and unbelievable engine, which is endurance. that's in Oleksandr Usyk. Now, same people are saying that Joshua should came in at 245 or 250. No, that's a bad idea. Bad idea, because if he came in around that weight range, he would have been exhausted very quickly, and he would have got knocked out early in that fight against Oleksandr Usyk. Very early. That's just my opinion. But looking at Usyk's career and how he's able to fatigue his opponents mentally, but also physically as well, that's what he does best. He uses your greatest weaknesses against you. And the thing is, dude, he's going to wait for you to exhaust that weakness until he finally exploits it and gets you out of here. That's how Oleksandr Usyk does it. So him going up to 250, even for the rematch, that's a horrible idea. He has to stay at 240. That'd be the only way he can keep up with Usyk and have any chance of all winning that rematch. I'm telling you, if he does go up to 250 and adds 5 more pounds, I think that's a terrible mistake. But then again, this is heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. But again, I don't want to. I'm not. I don't want to hear this excuse about him being weight drained. He was not weight drained. He had a 20-pound weight advantage over his opponent, which is Oleksandr Usyk, and he had the same weight in his last 2 fights. Well, last 3 fights, including the Usyk fight, which is Andrew Ruiz Jr. in the rematch in Kubrat Pulev. I have to say that again. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that, I have to always address these double standards when it comes to the sport of boxing, particularly here on YouTube. I remember, as recalled, and vaguely recalled, I should say, not vaguely, but I still recall, and people still bring this up, is that, well, Wilder, when he fought Tyson Fury in his second fight, yeah, no excuses there. He got his ass in there and got beat comprehensively. All right. But then, all of a sudden, when he was addressing, he was, laying out all these concerns, which are all bullshit. I'll admit that for the most part. This, that, and the third, he wasn't right. He wasn't fully prepared. You guys said no excuses, and rightfully so, no excuses. But now all of a sudden, you guys are trying to not apply the same standard to Anthony Joshua. I know you say, well, there's no excuses. It's just the obvious what's going on. No, again, he is not weight drained. I don't know where this argument of a heavyweight being weight drained, where does that come from? Look, Joshua has the option to be at 250 or 260, whatever the case may be, even 240, 230. That's his choice. There's no weight limit at heavyweight, other than the fact that if you weigh over 200 plus pounds, you're at heavyweight. That's it. There's no catch weight involved. I mean, Jesus Christ, where are people getting this idea that he was weight drained? I don't get it. So that's the thing about boxing, especially here on YouTube. People have short-term memory. The man weighed the same weight in his previous fights. Did they not forget that? Wow. I really don't understand, man. I really don't. So, again, the weight argument is not liable. He was not weight drained. He was not compromised. The man came in the best shape that he could come in because he knew he was going up against a guy who was far, who has very unbelievable superior skills. We all know he has superior. Now we know that Usyk does have superior skills than Joshua. He's going up against a guy who's a decorated amateur, who's had over 400 amateur fights, including the semi-pro level, which is World Series of Boxing, who's fought bigger men before, taller men, a la Joe Joyce. Look at that fight where he lit him up like, he was crazy. I mean, completely lit up Joe Joyce in that fight. But in my view, I think he beat Joshua far worse than he beat Joe Joyce. But anyhow, the point is that Usyk has been doing this for years. This man is not compromised to fame. He's been a famous figure in the country of Ukraine for years. All right. He takes his training very seriously. At times when he goes out and train in the wilderness by himself, but that's what I've heard. He pretty much isolates himself from his family and from his friends and bring in certain people in his training camp to help him get prepared for certain fights. Okay. So, yeah, no excuses here, man. Look, Joshua lost to a very great fighter and one of the greatest cruiserweights of all time. It's safe to say that now. One of the greatest cruiserweights of all time and undoubtedly is a Hall of Famer. No question about it. That's just my view. All right. So, again, guys, we can't use the weight excuse. Joshua was not drained. He was not lethargic. He just tried his best to keep up with a fighter who's well seasoned, who is an unbelievable unbelievable engine and a work rate, has power. Let's not now that's pretty much out of the bag now. He has power. He can hurt you. He can give you all sorts of angles, and he can fight he has multiplicity of skills. He can fight in close range. He can fight in mid range. He can fight long distance. Usyk can do everything. He can do just about everything. Does that mean he's not beatable? Of course not. Usyk is a beatable guy. The only way you can probably have a chance of beating the guy is just to pressure him, take him off his game. So, like Derek Chisora did. Now, some people are suggesting that's what Anthony Joshua should do against a guy like Oleksandr Usyk, which is fair. I mean, that would be reasonable. But here's the thing: here, Anthony Joshua does not have the style of a Derek Chisora. That's number one. Number two, it'll take more than just 5-6 months to prepare to change your style to fight a guy like Usyk. Okay. Another thing too is that what people tend to elude is that Joshua does not have not only that he doesn't have the greatest endurance in the world, he does not have the great durability. That is a fact. He is a very chinny guy. That doesn't mean that's the worst chin at heavyweight. No, I've seen worse chins like a la Floyd Patterson and Seth Mitchell. But the fact is that the man does not have the durability or the endurance to fight a guy to fight the style of a Derek Chisora. He doesn't have it. I'm sorry to say that. So that would leads me to my next question. Can he win the rematch against Oleksandr Usyk? Like you guys said about Deontay Wilder, like I said about Deontay Wilder going against Tyson Fury in this third fight, he pretty much has a puncher's chance of winning the fight. No question about it, because this is the heavyweight division. Anything can happen. But if he wants to strategically win the fight, I think he can. I don't think he should go up any more than 240. I think that is a bad idea. That's very detrimental to him. He should stay at 240. And he will, yeah, I agree. He does have to impose his size and his will against Oleksandr Usyk. But the thing is that he doesn't have the durability to do it. And that's the thing. He's going to have to maul him. He's going to have to break him down to the body. But can he keep up against Usyk? Can he? I mean, the endurance is just. It's just these are problems that Joshua is going to have to. I mean, that I hate to say it. It's either you have great endurance or you don't, or is either you have great durability or you don't. And unfortunately, Joshua doesn't have it. I know some people are going to look at this and say I'm being extra critical of the guy. No, I'm not. It's just these are the flaws that are there. Can he improve them? Absolutely. And to be fair, I'm going to give Joshua some credit here. He did improve his endurance by dropping down to 240. I believe he should stay there. But at the same time, if you don't have the great durability naturally, then you don't have it. He doesn't have natural durability or endurance. He just doesn't have it. This is not the knock on the guy, but that's a fact. Skirting board says that 19 fights, cruiserweight undisputed, heavyweight 3 belt unified. He could retire now. Yeah, Usyk, I agree. Usyk can retire now. I don't think he should. I think he has maybe 3 more fights, maybe 4 or 5 more fights left in him. Realistically, yeah, he can retire right now. He can also fall back on the fact that he's one of the greatest amateurs of all time. Olympic gold medalist, so European national champion in the amateurs. So this man, yeah, he's done it all. I mean, if he can get that WBC belt, whoever is the winner between Wilder and Fury, that's another story that we'll have to talk about later. So, yeah, he definitely can retire now. He should retire, I think. He's at the pinnacle. I mean, look, Usyk can retire, but obviously he's got the rematch clause that he has to adhere to. So, he's got to legally, be obligated to that. Otherwise, if he decides to retire, Anthony Joshua has a right to take him to court and, and sue him for damages for a breach of contract. So, I mean, yeah, from one, looking at it from another point of view, yeah, I mean, he could retire today. He's definitely at this pinnacle, but I still think that Usyk does have, 5 more fights left in him. So we'll see. Percy, what's happening, man? He said, yeah, he can win the rematch. This is boxing. Yeah, absolutely. I said it is heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen, but looking at it from a strategic standpoint, I'm struggling to figure out how can Joshua win the rematch. And the reason why I'm struggling to try to figure this out, I'm struggling to figure this out is because of his technical deficiencies. What I mean by that, he is a good technical boxer puncher at heavyweight. Great technique. But the problem is that the endurance and the durability. That is Joshua's ultimate. Those are his Achilles heels. And if you don't have that against a guy like Oleksandr Usyk, how do you make up for that? You definitely cannot outbox him. That's not going to happen. We saw that. We saw what was displayed last Saturday night. So if you don't have the endurance or durability, then how do you make up for that if you're Anthony Joshua? How do you make up for it? So that's the questions that you have that I sit here, I'm trying to answer for myself. So skirting board says, if I was Usyk, I'd retire. It won't get any better. Yeah, you know what? Look, if he chooses retired after the Anthony Joshua rematch, and if he should he prevail or win or lose, then yeah. I mean, I don't blame him, but I think he got a few more, a few more fights left in him. But I mean, he does have the aspirations of being the undisputed champion. He wants to accomplish what Evander Holyfield did, so I think that's what it's been on his mind for a while now. And he does have the skill, and he does have the technique, and he does have the durability and the endurance. He has all the attributes to do it. He definitely can hit. He can hurt heavyweights. We've seen it. Let's not forget he hurt Derek Chisora in the middle of their fight when he nearly had him out on his feet. So let's not forget that Usyk is an unbelievable fighter. Can he lose? Absolutely, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how long you go undefeated, but there is going to be someone out there that's going to take your undefeated record weight, and then will beat you. That's the way it goes. No one's invisible when it comes to the art of fighting. No one. I also think that Wilder and Fury will fight for a fourth time. Well, you know what? I've been hearing ramblings about that because, it is kind of one of those. It's kind of like those situations. It's kind of like the Joshua and Usyk situation going into their fight. It's like, okay, Joshua Usyk does have the skills, and he does have the attributes to compete against Anthony Joshua, but could he overcome his size and his power? That was the ultimate question. And obviously we saw that Usyk can do that. And he did it in a very dominant fashion against Joshua. So that's one. But opposed to Wilder and Fury, yes, Wilder does not have the attributes of Alexander Usyk. No question about it. He does not have it. So I'm not comparing Usyk to Wilder. But in this situation, flip the script. Fury is not as disciplined as Usyk. He doesn't move as fluidity. He doesn't have the fluidity like Usyk does. Is Tyson Fury fluid? Absolutely. Does he have good footwork? Absolutely. But he doesn't punch like Usyk. He doesn't have that great punch selection. And he's not a disciplined fighter. This guy's known to blow up in weight, not to come in shape on certain fights. So Tyson Fury pretty much is a guy who could compromise himself going to fights. And we saw his actions trying, on how he tried to get out of his obligated fight with Wilder. We all saw that happen the whole year. So, and there's ramblings that he's not in the best shape right now. But again, this is heavyweight boxing. We'll see. So my point that I'm getting at is just one of those these many variables that you have to, take into account here. And shout out to Boxing Square because he used the word variables in one of his fight previews going into Joshua and Usyk. So yeah, there is a very good possibility that Wilder's going to win this fight next week because he's had so much time to prepare. He's understand the mistakes that he made in the second fight, which he won't admit publicly. We see that in the sparring sessions, but I think there could be more than those sparring sessions. And then again, at the same time, we have to see if all this is going to translate into the rematch with Fury. And as far as Fury is concerned, he doesn't look like he's well conditioned at all in a couple of his training sessions that I've seen recently. So again, this is heavyweight boxing. We'll see how this plays out, man. But this to me is kind of similar to the Usyk and Joshua situation where there's so many variables. We don't know who's going to win. If this fight happened late last year, as it was scheduled to do before the pandemic hit, then definitely Fury all day. Because I don't think Wilder would have had enough time to prepare and get over the loss that he suffered back in February of last year. Now it's been more than a year and a half. Yeah, almost 18 months now that he's had enough time to understand the situation for what it is, that how he lost the fight. Let's put the excuses aside. He understood that the mistakes that he made, and he knows what he has to do to correct it. So he has enough time to prepare. He has enough time to kind of change his tactics, utilize the skills that he said himself he's always had, but he never had utilized it because he's always gotten away with his one punch knockout power in his previous fights. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see. We'll see. But again, you know, these all these variables, man. I don't know. On paper, I'm going to still favor Fury, but I'm not confident in that pick like I wasn't confident in the Joshua pick. I did favor Joshua to beat Usyk, but I wasn't too confident about it. So we'll see. Shirley Finkel pushed the rematch. I'm not sure Deontay wants it. He said he didn't want to fight a third fight in that interview last year in his own mouth. Well, I didn't hear him saying he didn't want it. I don't know sure what interview you're referring to, Skirty. If you could point that interview to me, I'll take a look at it. But I didn't recall Deontay Wilder giving an interview saying he didn't want the third fight. I didn't see that at all. I've been following this thing very closely. Then again, I'm human. I could have missed it. But again, if you can source that out to me or you point to a source on that interview, then please share it. But I do know is that Fury's team was trying to get out of that third fight. So if you say that Deontay Wilder didn't really want the third fight, but Finkel pushed the rematch anyway, which is possible, but I didn't see that type of interview. But in reality, we do know what was been publicly reported is that Fury was trying use many loopholes that he could to get out of this fight. He didn't want the third fight for some reason. To me, that was concerning because if you beat the guy comprehensively like you did in the second fight, what's the problem? Why didn't you want the third fight? Why are we trying to use all these illegal maneuvers to get out of it? In loopholes. Why are you trying to do that? That to me, I didn't quite understand. So, that's unusual. Yeah, again, Skirty, if you can just go ahead and point to a source where Wilder said he didn't want the rematch, please show it to me because I'd never seen that. G-Lex says Wilder always wanted the rematch. Yeah, from what I've seen and we've all seen, yeah, he's always wanted it. He activated the rematch clause 1 week before he lost. And then again, Fury's been trying so hard to get out of this fight for a long time now. So, yeah. Fury won undisputed with Joshua. I'll give Fury credit for that, though. You know what, man? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, because the way that whole situation played out between Fury and Joshua, I was more and more doubtful that fight was never going to happen. Maybe Fury wanted it, but it again is he has a legal right to honor the Wilder third fight, and he has to take it. So, to me, I'm on the fence about what Fury wanted it or not. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he's always had this inconsistent behavior when he approaches certain fights. So I don't know. Albania 555 says that Usyk would beat him Eastern European taking over boxing. I wouldn't say that. Eastern Europeans do have great fighters. I mean, it goes back to the Klitschko's. It goes back to, it goes to the Klitschko's and then goes up to the Lomachenko. Then you have Usyk, obviously. So then you have Gennady Golovkin. So that's only like 5 European great fighters there. So I'm not sure if it's exactly taking over. But yeah, you guys have some good champions. I'll admit that. But as far as taking over boxing, nah. Lomachenko is no longer champion, by the way. He lost to Teofimo Lopez, so let's not forget that. Golovkin lost to Canelo Alvarez. Let's not forget that. And recently, well, not Usyk. Usyk just beat Anthony Joshua. So, yeah, the Usyk win over Joshua does not signify that the Eastern Europeans taking over. No, it doesn't signify that. So I totally disagree there. Skirty says, I definitely watched him say that he didn't want the Fury third fight. I can't find it in it, but I'll keep checking. I'm not lying though. No. I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying that I never seen it. So yeah, if you could just show it to me, and then great, I'll take a look at it. Again, I could be wrong. I follow this very closely though. I never recall Wilder saying that he never won the third fight. The only thing I can tell you is that there were people suggesting that he didn't want the third fight based off the certain variables on how he came out with his response after his loss. He did not mention Tyson Fury's name in that response video when he activated his rematch clause. Some people use that angle to say he doesn't really want it. He's forced into it. Fair enough. But again, it doesn't mean that he didn't really want the fight. We don't know that for sure. We can only speculate. That's also to say that it's fair to say that if people are going to use that argument, then it's probably safe to say that Joshua's forced into this Usyk rematch, which that I can see that argument there because this is too much money's on the line for Joshua to not get his belts back. So, yeah, I was there at the AJ fight, my guy, Marco fight. Marco, Flavio Marco. Oh, yeah, I heard about that fight. My cousins hooked me up with tickets. Hey, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Hey, was the venue sold out? Because I know they keep reselling tickets on secondary markets. So let me know. I know they said they sold 60,000 tickets, but then again, if you look at the secondary websites like StubHub or Access or something like that, there were still plenty of tickets available for the event. So I'm not saying there was not a huge crowd there. There was definitely a huge crowd, but I'm sure there was some seats left there, vacant seats. But yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah, guys, that's just my take on it, man. It's hard for me to comprehend or figure out how Joshua can win this rematch because, again, if you don't have the durability or the endurance, then how do you make up for it? You definitely have to make it up with the great exceptional boxing skills, like Terry Norris, for example. I'll use him as an excellent example. Terry Norris had one of the worst chins in boxing history, no question about it. This man could not take a punch that could save his life. To be fair, he did take Sugar Ray Leonard's punches, but that was an old version of Ray Leonard. So I guess people don't want to, count that. But at the same time, he couldn't really take a punch on world level. But what Terry Lawrence did, though, is that he made up for that with his exceptional boxing skills. I mean, great boxing skills, by the way. He had great boxing skills. He had the power and the skills to make up for the fact that he didn't have a great chin. Same thing with Mir Khan. Didn't have a great chin. Oh, yeah, one of the worst chins in history, too, up there with Terry Norris. But Khan made that up with his agility and his speed and some bit of his athleticism and good boxing skills, too. So that's how he made up. And then to be fair, Joshua has good boxing skills, too, but they're not on par with Oleksandr Usyk. So I don't know how he can beat him. The only way he can beat Usyk is and I mentioned this in one of the chats. I can't. What did I mention? Oh yeah, I mentioned that it's going to take an act of God for AJ to win that rematch against Oleksandr Usyk, and that is if Oleksandr Usyk becomes very lazy, he becomes soft, he's not taking his training very seriously, he comes in out of shape. Other words, undisciplined. But nah, I don't see that. Oleksandr Usyk is always in shape. He takes his sport very seriously. Like people say, he doesn't fight for the money. He fights for the glory. So this is not Andy Ruiz. I'm sorry. And some people believe that, but no, this is not an Andy Ruiz situation. This is a guy who's going to be fully prepared for a fight. He takes it very seriously. And he lives the lifestyle of a fighter despite his wealth and his fame in Ukraine. So, yeah. Scurry says, but he did say for a year now he's up for the third fight. I think Wilder 100% wants to fight now, so we're all good. On Rival mentioned Wilder did not want the fight thing. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I'll tell you what, I'll have to look for it myself to see if there's a video that if there's an interview that exists or any type of quote, but I never seen it. But yeah, I'll take a look at it. So yeah. Albano says opinions on the new boxing game. Well, I mean, boxing and all type of sports. Whenever we have a conversation, it's all subject. It's all based on subjectivity and objectivity. So there's a balance of both. Terry Norris knocked Gotti the fuck out. You mean John? Not John Gotti. Arturo Gotti's brother. I think Joey. And what's his brother's name? Joey Gotti, I believe. I could be wrong. Yeah, Norris definitely was a banger. He had great power, when he was fighting in his prime. But again, the man just could not take a punch at world level. He was, one of the worst chins in history. And the fact that Terry Norris had fought as long as he had with that punch resistance, he had lack of punch resistance, I should say. He obviously is now brain damaged from this, for his lengthy career and taking all those bad shots. So. I mean, great fighter, Hall of Famer, no question about it. One of the best arguably the best 154-pound fighter of all time, but you know that his lack of punch resistance, his worst chin is what what became detrimental to him in his career. So yeah. Terry Norris only got KO'd a few times. You say he has the worst chin in the boxing, bro? You trolling? No, no. Trust me, man. I've been watching boxing for many, many years. Okay, Terry Norris. Yes, he only got knocked out 4 times out of his 9 losses, but the man literally cannot take a punch very well. You saw how he's reacted to punches against guys like Simon Brown, who's a welterweight. And to be fair, Brown was a big puncher. All right. I recall in that fight that he had against Simon Brown, the first fight, it was one shot, I think, on top of the head, and Norris couldn't take it. It was like, God damn, it looked like to me that Simon Brown put much muster into it, but Norris was hurt badly. Nah, he had a bad chin, man. Come on. The dude had a terrible chin. I'm sorry to say that. In fact, freaking Troy Waters put him down in their fight. And to be fair, Norris recovered very well, but he got put down by a shot that wasn't, I don't know. It didn't really have. I mean, yeah. To be fair, when Troy Waters fought him, he put him down with the multiplicity of punches in the close quarters in the inside. But other than that, yeah, his chin was not that good, man. Not that good at all. Nah, I'm not trolling, bro. He didn't have a good chin. And I like Terry Norris. Trust me, I was one of his biggest fans when I grew up watching the sport back in the early 90s, but his chin was not that good. All right, let's see here. Yeah, man. It's not much going on right now. I mean, the sport of boxing. I just wanted to come on and give my 2 cents on this whole narrative that Joshua was weight drained, which is ridiculous because the man has weighed the same, the same in his last 3 fights. Well, last 2 fights before the Usyk fight. And no one complained about him being at 240 around that time. No one said nothing about that. But now when he takes an ass whoop, and I'm sorry to say that, he did get his ass beat. I hate, he get his ass beat. All of a sudden, weight is the issue. No, nah, it's not the issue. The man was just had 20-pound weight advantage over Usyk. And many of you, by the way, said who couldn't compete with Joshua, who said he didn't have the power to keep up with him. But you guys were totally wrong. Totally wrong. What's up, Intangible? He said, "Who said that Joshua was weight drained?" Well, out of respect to those channels, and those commenters, I'm not going to mention them. But if you go around and you look at, I'll give you some hints. If you type in the search of Joshua post fight videos, you'll see a lot of people saying that Joshua was weight drained, that he should have came in at 250 and opposed his will. No, 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 not at all. If Joshua came in at 250 and fought Usyk, he would have been knocked out. I'm sorry to say that. He would have been knocked out early in that fight. Joshua would have gassed him after the 3rd round, especially against a guy like Usyk who moves around a lot, gives you so many angles, who has unbelievable footwork, great reflexes, great head movement. That's going to throw off your timing and energy. So he should stay at 240 if he has a chance in that rematch. I don't think he should go up in weight. He should stay at 240. That's all I got to say. Yeah, Joshua's stamina was better than usual in the fight. Absolutely, it was better. Even though he gassed it like in the 9th or 10th round, but it was still better than than it was in his previous fights when he was around 245 or 255, close to 260. Way better. I agree. Who said that Joshua was weight drained? And like I said, Percy, out of respect to those channels and commenters, I'm not going to name them, but just go ahead and search in the in the YouTube search engine. You just type in Joshua Usyk live stream or watch or live commentary or post fight videos. You'll see that some of these people are saying that. So yeah, again, he was not compromised. He came in the best shape that, in my view, that we all agreed initially. He just, like I said, though, he doesn't trust his durability, which I hate to say, he doesn't really have that great durability. He doesn't. So, yeah, man. Look, it's no shame to losing to a guy like Oleksandr Usyk, and I've said this before. If he does lose to Usyk, there's no shame in that. There's many great cruiserweight, not many, but there's several many. Let's just say this: there's many little guys who went up to heavyweight and became great fighters at heavyweight. All right. Now, I'm not talking about cruiserweights because the cruiserweight the divisions only came to inception, I believe, in 1978 or 1979, something around there. Okay. I believe around, I think it was 78. But, anyways, before that, you had welterweights, you had middleweights that got up and fought at heavyweight and beat heavyweight, great heavyweight fighters. Ezra Charles, for example, my favorite fighter of all time, started his pro career at middleweight, had a great run. He beat guys like Charlie Burley there, okay, and moved up to light heavyweight and beat many great light heavyweights up there as well. Then beat Joe Louis, all right, for the heavyweight title. So it's been done before many times. So don't be surprised that you have a great little guy coming up in a weight to fight a heavyweight and beat them. Don't be, you shouldn't be shocked about this. That's why I tell people that if Usyk should prevail, I don't consider this as a great upset. It's not a great upset. This shouldn't have surprised anyone, given the pedigree that Usyk has. Fight doctor, man, he said Joshua should retire. Nah, fight doctor, I'm not. Let's not go there on that. I know we've had this discussion before. Joshua is not wagering. I'm not saying wagering. He should not retire. What I think he should do, and I was listening to one of the uploaders here, Hatman. He said that Joshua should take the what you call it. He should take the Lennox Lewis blueprint or blueprint on how to rejuvenate yourself as after a loss, especially if you're at the early stages of your career and you've have a lot of technical deficiencies that you need to work on. So I could say that to an extent, but then again, Lennox Lewis was not in a financial position like Anthony Joshua is. And what I mean by that is that Joshua has some much revenue that's being pumped into him. That's number one. Number two, he does bring back a great return on investment on that revenue, on those, dollars spent on him to, spent on him to set up his shows or, events, whatnot. So if he were to take a step backwards, such as fight on European level, which I don't mind, I agree with that. He should do that so he can correct his flaws, his technical deficiencies, and if he were to get rid of Robert McCracken, see how the relationship and the new process with the new trainer feels like Lennox Lewis did with Emmanuel Stewart. So, but again, I just don't see that happening. I don't see that. But again, should he retire? No, I don't think he should retire. Joshua can win the rematch if he incorporate what Bellew and Chisora did to disrupt Usyk's rhythm. Yeah, he could do that, but will he have the endurance to keep it up? Keep in mind, Fight Doctor, Chisora and Bellew did not have the endurance to keep up with Usyk, and that's why Usyk was able to catch up with them. And obviously, Usyk stopped Bellew, and Chisora gassed out at the end. He just didn't have the endurance to keep up with Usyk. So Joshua can do that, but he doesn't have. To me, in my view, he doesn't have the endurance like Bellew or Chisora. He doesn't have it. So I don't know if that's. He can do that, but again, it just goes back to my initial question: how does he win the rematch if he has those flaws? And you can't correct it anytime soon. And to be fair, Joshua has better endurance. He's at 240, so he can't get no better than that when it comes to endurance. So as far as durability, if you don't have a good chin, you don't. That's just the way it is, man. I'm sorry. Brandon Reyes says that Joshua fights like a robot. He'll never come back this time. His time, he'll never come back. His time has passed. No. I think he'll be back, but I just don't think he'll beat Usyk. So let's just say if he does lose the rematch, I still think he still has a career left in him. He might try to fight for the WBC title, whoever the champion is. He'll get ranked there. But let's say Usyk does retire or he vacates one of his belts, then Joshua can go fight for that. So, and work his way back up there. I mean, yeah, he can do that. So we'll see. My doctor says that keep his lead foot on the outside, which he should have done. He did that first half of the fight, but he totally abandoned it because he was so thrown off by Usyk's movement. So, Yeah, well, yeah. Again, keep the lead head, keep the lead foot. Keep the lead foot on the outside of Usyk's lead foot. He did that, and throw the lead right hand. He did that a few times, but it just didn't work. Usyk knew that was coming and kept countering him. So, what else do you do? He also needs to work on Usyk's body. Yeah, he does. I think he needs to invest in the body more. But I think when he did try to do that, and I've seen this in several cases in the fight, he has more success doing that than he tried to hit Usyk on the top of the head. But he was also getting counters when he was getting hit to the body. So those counters was very Joshua was very bothered by that. That can drain you mentally, you know. So we got to take that into account. So again, there are some ideas how he can win it, but again, does he have? He doesn't have the endurance to keep up, man. I just don't see it. But again, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. Prove me wrong. I've been proven wrong before. Ah, man. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You know, especially if Usyk does try to give him an angle, and he dips when Usyk dips over to his right, he definitely can. He definitely can offset that by throwing the left hook, but he's got to time it perfectly because Usyk can move and he can give an angle, but he will. He'll like the split step can get out of the way of that left hook. He can do that, so that's how, you know, that's how very good he is when it comes to giving those angles. So yeah, so yeah, guys. So again, there was no weight. Joshua was not compromised with his weight. He was at a great weight. He just lost to a great fighter. Sorry. And going up to 250 or 245, that's definitely going to be more detrimental for him in the rematch. I'll tell you that right now. And let's not get it twisted, guys. Who knows if this rematch is really going to come off? I know Joshua exercised it according to Usyk's team, but will they follow up with that? That's the number one question here because Khrushchev, who's Oleksandr Usyk's promoter at K2 and managing director, he said that, well, as far as I'm told, they have invoked their rematch clause. They exercised it. So we'll see if they actually follow along with it because to be a guy like Oleksandr Usyk, you're going to need more than 6 months to adapt to a new style to beat him. And, you know, again, 6 months is not enough time to prepare for that. So, again, I know one of the uploaders said that Usyk should forget about the rematch, and I agree with that. He probably should, and I'll be consistent here. He should forget about it. I think he should move on and take on a couple tune-up fights, Joshua, that is, so he can get his confidence back. Same thing with Deontay Wilder. But if they do want to exercise the rematch clause, they have every legal right to do it. So I'm not going to knock Joshua for that. So, you know, like I did knock Wilder for doing what he felt he had a legal right to do, which he did have a legal right to do. So, yeah. He should fight tall. Part of or Joshua's problem is that he gave up his natural advantages in height and reach. Um, I'm not sure if he should fight tall because if he fight tall, he's a Satan target with Usyk. Because you have to understand, Joshua is very stiff. He doesn't have the fastest reflexes in the world, and that Usyk Usyk exploits that. So again, these are the things. These are very good ideas, but then again, Usyk is prepared for those things. That's the thing about it. He's prepared for any adjustments that Joshua would make or that we're suggesting he should do. He would be prepared for that. So, oh man, let's not get it twisted. We're all fixated on what Joshua should do, what technical corrections he should make. Let's not forget that Oleksandr Usyk is going to look back at his performance, and he said himself that was not his greatest performance. He know he made some mistakes, and then going to the rematch, he's going to correct his mistakes. So when you have a guy that says that, and we all agree that he beat him, comprehensively, he dominated Joshua. That's scary right there, and that can get to you mentally if you're Joshua. If you hear your opponent say that, say, "Nah, I didn't give my greatest performance against him. I'm gonna do much better in the rematch." That should be very troubling. Very troubling. What else is here? Yeah, guys. I mean, let me go down. I'm going to go down boxing scenes. If there's any other news and updates. Okay, so as far as the Eubank fight is concerned, Muratov, who's Eubank's opponent, was pulled. He was one who had the medical reasons, not Eubank. So again, they never disclosed that medical concern, what that was, the nature of it. So Avanesian versus Taylor is the main event of the boxer show. So okay, so we still have a show. But unfortunately, it's not Chris Eubank who's the main event, who was in the main event. So yeah. Uh, let's see. So Hannah Rankins is going to fight Maria Lindbergh for the WBA 154-pound title. I mean, it's a decent fight. Clarissa Shields, I think she vacated those titles because obviously she's not going to be competing there for a while because she's over at PFL. So yeah, it's a decent fight. I'm definitely picking Rankin to win it, even though I think she's lost a step. But we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Heavyweight boxing in the males division, women's boxing can be pretty big, a bit unpredictable as well. So we'll see. Anthony Price says he will not win the rematch as long as he's still working with his current coach. Yeah, Robert McCracken, he's definitely got to go. I mean, Robert McCracken, let's not take anything away from him. He's a very great trainer. He's had success with previous fighters like Hall Froch, yada yada yada. I get that, but it's on heavyweight level, on the world level. He's taken Anthony Joshua as far as he can. I just don't. There's nothing else Robert McCracken can do to correct Joshua's deficiencies. And to be fair, you got to give Robert McCracken some credit here. He did advise Joshua that he shouldn't be coming into fights above 250 or mid 240s anymore because that's going to compromise his endurance. So coming at 240 is his optimal weight, which is the best coaching advice that you can give your fighter. But other than that, from a technical standpoint, when he's too upright, he's too stiff, fighting in a robotic position, yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, Robert McCracken can't teach him anything beyond that. He can't. So he's going to need a trainer who has wealth of experience on world level, in the heavyweight boxing scene, and who can help correct his flaws in the correct manner to fight a southpaw like Oleksandr Usyk, like James Ali Bashir. But I don't see that happening. Like Ronnie Shields, that'd be a good option. But obviously, he's going to have to go to America and spend time there. I don't think Joshua wants to do that because he's very comfortable in his comfort zone when he's close to home. So, the thing is, he's not going to get rid of McCracken. I don't see it happening. If he does get rid of Rob McCracken, it would be somewhat surprising because Joshua he believes in loyalty so much. And that's the reason why he signed that long-term deal with Matchroom. And I'm not sure if that's a good idea because it is pretty unprecedented that a fighter signs a long-term deal with a promoter. That's very unprecedented. So again, it's too early in their new term, so we'll see how this plays out. But I have a bad feeling that this may not work out for Joshua in the long run with that long-term deal. But I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. On Rival, what's happening? Mark, he said yes, he can, but he won't. Yeah, if you're applying to the fact that can Joshua win the rematch, he can, but he won't. I agree with that. He has every possibility. I mean, not every possibility. He has a possibility to do it because, as I mentioned earlier on this live stream, he has a puncher's chance of winning the rematch. I just don't think it will be enough against a guy like Usyk. It won't be enough. And we all know that Usyk can take a shot too. His punch resistance is very good at heavyweight, so he can take a punch. Fight Doctor says Bellew was giving Usyk a boxing lesson up to the KO. I think Joshua was able to execute the game plan, should be able to execute the game plan the same way as Bellew. I think there was some parts of that fight that he tried to execute that game plan where he was waiting for Usyk to commit and then counter him with the right. And there was times that Joshua was missing all those shots. So as far as Bellew, I think Bellew was a little. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure if he's a more accurate puncher than Joshua, but the thing with Bellew is that I think his timing was a bit better than Joshua. Let's put it that way. His timing is better. So I'm not saying Joshua doesn't have timing, but Bellew's timing is a little bit better when he put his punches together. Joshua just couldn't figure out the timing with Usyk. Yeah, you have to factor this in because Bellew fought a very good southpaw before he fought Usyk, and that was Ilingo Makabu. I know those are two different styles, but Makabu is a very good fighter on world level. It's very powerful and dangerous southpaw at heavyweight. And Tony Bellew knocked him out. I get it. Two different styles, but but my point is that Bellew has fought a southpaw not too long ago before he fought or before he fought before he fought Usyk. So I don't know. Like I said, though, Joshua did try to employ some of those same tactics that Bellew did, but it just didn't work. It didn't work at all. Anthony Prince says that he doesn't deserve any credit. AJ's defenses has always been weak, and I'm the biggest AJ fan. Well, I'm going to be in the defense of AJ. He has some great defenses. Now, should it say that he's been damaged in those fights? Absolutely. He doesn't have the greatest defense in the world, and his punch resistance is not that great. But I wouldn't say his defenses are, or you mean his defense? I mean, his defense has always been weak. Yeah, his defense is not the best in the world. Let's put it that way. Is it the worst defense? No, but it's definitely not good defense. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. Lemon Pepper Chitlins. All right, that's a unique username. He says, sure, he's gonna he's gonna have to be uncomfortable and test his stamina. You know, the one thing I will say though is that someone should psychologically talk to Joshua and tell him, a psychologist, to say, hey, look, when you get into the sport of fighting, you're going to get hurt. That's inevitable. Maybe you should employ the same tactics like Lennox Lewis did. And we all agree that Lennox Lewis' punch resistance was not that great either at heavyweight, even though he's been knocked out twice. He's been buzzed, has hurt a few times in his fights. But Lennox Lewis didn't care about that. He didn't worry about his endurance. He kept pressing on when fights were tough against him. Like, look at the Vitaly Klitschko fight. Lennox was hurt multiple times in that fight. In that first round, I think he could have got stopped, or second round. He could have got stopped in that round if it went any longer against Vitaly, but Lennox didn't care. When the bell rang in the third round, he came back attacking Vitaly. He took the fight to him. He didn't give a fuck about getting hit again. He wanted to take the fight to the man and get him out there before he hits him. So that's the mentality that Joshua should have. He should not worry about his durability. We know it's not great. You know that, but don't let that plague you. Do not let that deter you if you have to win a fight. Do not let that deter you. That's probably the only chance that he has if he doesn't allow his second thoughts going into the fight about his endurance and durability. So, yeah, I agree with that statement that he has to be uncomfortable. He's going to have to be uncomfortable and test his stamina. Yeah, he shouldn't worry about his stamina. He shouldn't worry about his endurance. Just keep fighting on to the best way you can. So, yeah. Unrivaled says that people want Joshua to do so many things that involve so many risks or things he has not shown he's good at and hone them quickly. He needs to sacrifice his weaknesses and go for broke on his strengths. Yeah, exactly. Just like Lennox Lewis did on several occasions. His punch resistance was not that good, but he went for broke all the time. He didn't care about all that because he knows at the end of the day, if he second guesses himself, he's not going to win a fight. So, yeah. AJ don't like to get hit. It's like he overreacts to punches. Yeah, that's another problem too. It's like there was times in that fight against Usyk where Usyk hit him with a touching straight left, and Joshua just like the way he reacted to those punches. It's like, dude, his mindset just changes. It's like I'm like, wait a minute. It's like he's reacting to it that it actually hurts. And again, it could have hurt because we know he doesn't have the greatest punch resistance in the world, but Jesus Christ, it's like, dude barely touched you. You overreacting. And to be fair, Joshua, when he's get hit with those straight lefts, his net head was snapping back the whole time. And I'm like, well, goddamn, maybe Usyk is putting a lot of mustard to it, or maybe not. But from a TV standpoint, I'm looking at the television screen. It doesn't look like he's putting all that mustard into some of those shots. But Joshua's not reacting to him very well. So yeah. Fight Doctor says Vladimir Klitschko versus Chris Bird, the first fight. Joshua should study Vladimir's game plan in that fight. He can do that. He can try to lean on him, and try to zap his energy. But again, Usyk has been in the Klitschko camp for many years, and he sparred with the Klitschkos, and he's humiliated them on a few occasions, from what the word from the grapevine is. So I think Usyk's going to be prepared for that. He's seen that style before. I'm not sure if that's going to work, but I agree. He should study that fight and utilize the Vladimir Klitschko tactics, but I don't think that's going to work against a guy like Usyk. I just don't see it. I'm sorry, because Usyk has seen that style before. He's fought that style, not on world level, but he sparred the Klitschko's many times, and he's humiliated them, particularly Vladimir. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to work. Usyk was catching Joshua at the very end of those left hands. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Joshua just didn't have no answer for it. So, going back to Unrival's comment, let me just dwell on that a little bit more in detail. Like Alexander Khrushchev said, if you want Joshua to be a completely different fighter against a guy like Oleksandr Usyk, 6 months is not going to be enough time to make that turnaround. It's just not going to do it. It's just impossible. To me, again, if I'm Joshua, if I'm Team Joshua, I would just forego the rematch and go let Usyk right off to the sunset and then come back to it later. Because the belts are always going to be there no matter what. And even Anthony Joshua said it himself, look, I still want great fights. I don't care if the belts are on the line or not. Because at the point of his career, it's not about the belts. He said that, look, it's great to, it's a great idea and it's a great mindset to pursue undisputed titles. But at this point of his career, he's like, you know what? It's not about the belts anymore. It's about putting on the great fights with or without the belts. So I actually like that comment. I actually like that. Do we all want to see undisputed? Absolutely. It's been nearly 2 decades since we had an undisputed champion, and it's long overdue. But that just because we don't get undisputed at the time that we want it, that doesn't mean that we can still not get great heavyweight matchups. And that's what Joshua was alluding to that. So I agree with that. So with that said, I think he should move on from the Usyk fight, come back to it later. Let Usyk go ahead and defend those titles to his pleasure. And then, whenever you're ready to fight him again, go ahead and do it. That's the same advice I gave to Deontay Wilder. And again, I'll repeat myself. If they want to pursue the immediate rematch, they have every legal right to do it. We can't judge them for it, even though we think it's a bad idea, but it is what it is. Let me see. Unrival says Vitaly was there because he and Vlad knew. That's why Vlad wouldn't go. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's true. Yeah. They knew what, they pre-knew the outcome of that fight between Josh and Usyk. They knew. So, yeah. Percy says, I think Joshua's problem is that he's too nice of a guy. If he doesn't have any animosity for the fighter he is fighting, then he's going to go into a shell. He needs to get more of a mean streak. I agree to that to some extent, because at the end of the day, yes, we can all be friends, but this is the fight game, man. Once we get into that ring, we're not friends. Or leading up to the fight, we're not friends. Because, like, I've used this example on other live streams, like Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward. The first fight, leading up to that, in the first press conference, Ward, not Ward. Kovalev tried to shake Ward's hand at the end of the press conference, I believe, and Ward didn't want to do it. He's like, "No, I'm not shaking your hand. We're not friends. This is a fight, bro. We cool. Before the fight began, but we're not cool no more." So that's the mentality Andre Ward has had. He's like, "No, we could be friends, but this is the fight game, man. I'm fighting you, so I got to take this seriously." So I'm not saying Joshua's to overexert having a mean streak, but he can have this little callous attitude and say, you know what, we may be cool, but I'm not your friend. I'm not going to shake your hand. But then again, Alexander Usyk is very good at playing mind games, so he could use that against you. So, it's not a bad suggestion, but then again, this is Alexander Usyk. You don't want to give him an advantage when it comes to the mental mind game. He can exploit that just as good as Tyson Fury. So, he's not as loud as Tyson Fury when it comes to playing mind games. That's the difference between Usyk and Fury. Or assertive, that is. Assertive, I should say. Fight Doctor says that someone over in the UK described Usyk as an average southpaw, and I kind of agree. He didn't do anything spectacular in any of his heavyweight fights. You meant Johnny Nelson. I saw that interview with Iaville that he had with along with Adam Smith. Now, someone should give me a definition of average southpaw. What does Johnny Nelson mean by average southpaw? Because he never elaborated on that point. All he said was, well, look at Lomachenko. You guys said he was the best thing since sliced bread, and look what happened to him when he fought Teofimo Lopez. Now, with all due respect, Johnny Nelson, Anthony Joshua is not Teofimo Lopez, okay? Teofimo Lopez has far better, not say far better, he has better skills than Anthony Joshua when it comes to footwork, when it comes to speed, when it comes to endurance, when it comes to durability. So I don't I don't know what he means by average southpaw. I need someone to elaborate on what does that mean? I mean, average southpaw that gives you some bit of skill, but doesn't have the greatest footwork in the world. Maybe that's what he meant by average southpaw. But it goes, if that's the case, then he's totally wrong because Oleksandr Usyk is not an average southpaw. I don't see too many southpaws that can move in angles like Usyk does. I don't see too many southpaws that has a great punch output like Usyk does. So I don't know why Johnny Nelson would say that. I really don't understand that. So yeah, I respect Johnny Nelson, but I totally disagree with his assessment that Oleksandr Usyk is an average southpaw. No, he's not. He's not an average southpaw. I'm sorry. Yeah, over 2 decades, we haven't had an undisputed heavyweight champion. I know it is long overdue, man, but from the looks of it, we're not going to get it anytime soon because should Wilder or Fury prevail, whoever wins their fight next week, the WBC is going to call that mandatory, and that mandatory is either the winner of Dillian White or Aldo Wallin. If Dillian White didn't put a rematch clause in the contract, so should he lose against Wallin? So let's just say hypothetically, Dillian White wins that fight. The WBC is going to call the mandatory for White to fight the winner of Wilder or Fury. So, and we all know that Tyson Fury has made it clear he has no interest in fighting Dillian White at all. No interest at all. So should Wilder win, and I know there has been back and forth between Wilder and White. Wilder has expressed some interest. I know he hasn't gone full force at it because I know you can argue he's played mind games in that situation, or he played games with Dillian, saying he needs to go through these hurdles to get the fight, this, that, and the third. Okay, fine, but Wilder has tried to come to a compromise to make that fight to some extent. So, should he win, I think he would have no problem at this point taking on Dillian White. I could be wrong, but he showed a little bit more interest in making that fight more so than Tyson Fury, and that's a fact. So, yeah, my point is that should Wilder or Fury, whoever the winner is, I know Usyk said he wants the winner, but realistically, that fight's not gonna happen. That undisputed fight is not gonna happen anytime soon now. But let's pray. Let's pray that should Usyk prevail or Joshua prevails, and if Wilder or Fury prevails and they get through their mandatory fights, and then they'll fight probably another year or two. So yeah. Lemon Pepper says that no belts means his pay drops, and Hearn is okay with that. Yeah, obviously there is a pay structure there. If you're not the champion, you're not going to get the purse that you would be accustomed to since you're the champion. If you're not a champion, your purse structure is going to change. So I could see that. What's good, Dan? I'm good. I'm good, Terrence. I'm good, man. The Texan, well, Terrence, he says an average southpaw would be Robert Guerrero or Victor Ortiz. That's what I classify as average. Usyk, Lomachenko are levels on top, and that's a horrible comparison. Yeah, exactly what I said. I totally agree with that. And forgot Robert Guerrero and Victor Ortiz. I mentioned Otto Wallin. I mentioned who's the other southpaw that I mentioned. But anyways, yeah, those guys, they have exceptional skills, but they don't have the footwork and they don't have the punch selection like a Usyk and Lomachenko. They just don't have it. Or Joe Kawasaki, you could put him in the class as above average southpaw. So those guys, Guerrero, Ortiz, they don't move. They don't have the punch selection or the durability or endurance like those guys like Lomachenko, Kawasaki, and Usyk. They just don't have it. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, okay, I guess I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. I've been on here long enough. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on this narrative that Joshua was compromised with his weight. That was the reason why he lost to Usyk. Nah, that's see again. That I hate to say it, that's an excuse. I don't want to hear it. Okay. Just like I told people, and I'm very consistent, Wilder, maybe he has some legitimate excuses why he lost, but I don't want to hear it. At the end of the day, you took your ass into that ring again to fight, and you lost. Deal with it. Same thing with Joshua. You took your ass in that ring that night, you lost. Deal with it. And to be fair, Joshua deals with the losses much better than Wilder does. I got to give him a lot of respect there. But but at the same time, I'm hearing excuses that, oh, he was injured going in. So what? Not every fighter is going to go into a fight 100%. I'm sorry to tell you that. I don't care what fighters tell you in the interviews on the fighting meeting. Oh, I'm injury free. I'm ready to go. No, they're not. Who in the hell, what fighter is going to admit that they're injured going into a fight? No one. They're going to say that after the fact, just like Lomachenko did against Teofimo Lopez when the excuses were coming out of his camp that he was injured, he was compromised going in, blah, yada, yada, yada. Oh, please. I don't want to hear that shit, man. You gone in there, you lost. Deal with it. Okay? So, yeah, Joshua should stay at 240. He should not gain any more pound, not 1 ounce of a pound. He already has a 20-pound weight advantage over Usyk. So I don't understand why he needs to gain 10 more pounds. That makes no sense at all. None. So, okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Shout out to Terrence in the chat. Shout out to some new new commenters here. You got Lemon Pepper Chitlins. That's a unique name. A rival. Shout out to you as always, man. Fight Doctor Percy, Amir, Anthony Prince. There's a lot of UK commenters here. Brandon Reyes, Intangible as always, skirting board. Albano Boxing, boxer. Who else in there? G-Lex. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up. Yeah, peace, Amir. Until I'm out. Until next time. Peace.